Hi, it's Sarah from SlaughterhouseFive, and I'm continuing to talk about some of the books that I read in 2016, and so let's dive right in. The first book that I'm going to talk about is a short story. It's really tiny. You can read it online for free. It's called Happy Endings by Margaret Atwood. Originally I wasn't going to talk about this one, but it's probably one of my favorite short stories that I read this year, just because the writing style is so incredibly unique. It's written like a quiz where you can choose A, B, C, D, or E, but then you can also read them in that order, and it all ties in together because they all have the same happy ending. It's really wonderful. I highly recommend it. I love Margaret Atwood, and I definitely recommend checking out Happy Endings if you are a English major, or you just are interested in metafiction, or you just love Margaret Atwood. Definitely recommend that one. The next book on my list is 1984 by George Orwell. This was my first time reading George Orwell, and it will not be my last. I absolutely love 1984. It's one of my favorite books that I've ever been assigned to read in a classroom. I just love 1984 so much. I think it is probably one of the most horrifying novels I've ever read, because it is so close to the truth of things that could happen. I love conspiracy theories, so I pretty much think that Big Brother already controls everything, because I'm crazy. I'm not crazy, it's just I believe that the government is in more control than people would like to admit, and I feel like there's a lot of things in 1984 that I do see the government doing. For instance, I was exposed to the 9/11 conspiracy theory when I actually read that they were bombing the pearls in this novel, and I do believe that our government had something to do with it. I don't know what they did, but I know that they probably did do it just because they wanted to create a new threat for the American people to hate. And it definitely worked in what the government hoped that it would, just like Big Brother does with the people of Oceania. And really fascinating stuff. It's just, I really loved George Orwell's ideas about what a horrifyingly dystopian government can do when they just have complete control. It's really horrifying. We also watched a few clips from the movie, and by a few I mean like all the horrible stuff in Room 101, which was not fun to watch live. It was horrible to read about, but just watching the actual Room 101 scene take place on screen, I highly recommend 1984, and I hope to read Animal Farm sometime in the future. And then the next book on my list is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I read The Handmaid's Tale and 1984 at the same time, and I did like a comparison essay on like how women in the Gilead and women in the Big Brother governments are used as sexual devices, and their sexual repression is used as a tool. It was a really fun essay to write. I had like a lot of fun analyzing it, because it made me further look into Big Brother, because obviously with The Handmaid's Tale it's pretty obvious the sexual repression and how they use sex as a tool to enslave women, but with Big Brother it's a little not as obvious, so like I had to study it a little bit more, especially with Winston's wife, how it was more like a job than an actual act of love, and it's fascinating. But enough about like my essays. I love The Handmaid's Tale. I actually wrote another essay in college this semester about it. I think it's one of those novels that is just absolutely amazing. The writing is so gorgeous. The concept is so scary, and it just stays with you. It's difficult to read because it's not something people really want to read. No one wakes up one day and says, hey, I want to read about women being oppressed and made into sex slaves to produce children. Nobody wants to read that. But it's definitely something that I think everyone should read, so put it on your to-read list, and if you have it on your bookshelf and you still haven't read it yet, pick it up, because you won't regret it. And then the next book that I read was Beast by Joyce Carol Oates. I don't have a physical copy of this because I borrowed it from a teacher at school, but Beast follows a young girl who goes to I think it's an all-girls university, and at the university there's this professor there, and he teaches, I think, creative writing. It's some type of writing class. It may be a poetry class, and all of the students are absolutely infatuated with him, and eventually she starts an affair with him, and then it turns out that things are not all what they seem. It gets very dark. It's only about 80 pages. I gave it 4 stars. It was very uncomfortable to read. It was very depressing, but it made me really want to read more by Joyce Carol Oates, because I love her writing style, and it's really sick and twisted, and I definitely recommend it, even though it will leave you feeling very uncomfortable. And the next book that I read was SlaughterhouseFive by Kurt Vonnegut. This was the last book that I ever read in high school, and I'm glad that I left it on this note, because SlaughterhouseFive was definitely an awesome read to end my whole reading career of school assignments in high school. I love SlaughterhouseFive. I think it's a great commentary on PTSD, and I love how people classify this as a sci-fi novel, because it's not a sci-fi novel at all. Yes, there's aliens, but the aliens are not actually there. It's a symbol for PTSD, which is awesome, and it's so amazing. I actually love Kurt Vonnegut. As you can see in the future videos, I'll be talking about him because I've been slowly reading some of his work. I think this is probably his best work, in my opinion. I gave it 5 stars. I think it's beautiful, it's funny, it's dark, it's depressing, and it really opened my eyes up to Dresden bombing and what the Dresden bombing was, and especially what the effects on war and World War II had on the citizens of the world. It really affected so many people, and it's so fascinating, and I absolutely love it. It's even more fascinating that this is kind of, I guess you could say, like a memoir for Vonnegut, because he referenced himself a lot. He's the man with the that smells like mustard gas and roses, and I love it. So I definitely recommend picking up all of the books that I mentioned in this video, because they're all really good. And that's all I have for this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Let me know if you're interested in picking up any of these reads, or if they're any of your favorites, and I'll see you soon. Bye.